Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask you to please stand for the arrival of His Highness the Aga Khan and the Honourable Kathleen Wynne, Premier of Ontario. Please be seated. Your Highness, Premier Wynne, distinguished guests, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Leslie Marchant, the Director of International Relations and Deputy Chief of Protocol for the Province of Ontario. I am very pleased to welcome you all to this historic ceremony on the signing of the Ontario Ismaili Imamat Agreement of Cooperation and Appendices on Education and Policy Dialogue. And now, I ask His Highness and Premier Wynne to sign the Agreement of Cooperation. Thank you, Your Highness. Thank you, Premier. I will now ask you to take your places in front of the flags for the signing of the next two appendices, please. I would like to now call on Mr. Salim Bhatia, Director of the Aga Khan Academies, and the Honourable Liz Sandals, Minister of Education, to come forward and take their places at the signing table. I would also like to call on Mr. Henry Kim, CEO of the Aga Khan Museum, and the Honourable Reza Maredi, Minister of Training Colleges and Universities, to come forward as well. And Mr. Kim here. Mr. Bhatia and Minister Sandals will now sign Appendix 1 on education while His Highness and the Premier stand witness. Thank you, Mr. Bhatia and Minister Sandals. Mr. Kim and Minister Maredi, please take your places at the table. Please sign the agreement. Thank you very much. Everybody's going to stay? We're all going to stay in place? Thank you. I will now ask Mr. Malik Talib, President of the Imami Ismaili Council for Canada, and the Honourable Michael Chan, Minister of Citizenship, Immigration and International Trade, to take their places at the table to sign Appendix 2 on policy dialogues. Gentlemen, if you could take your places for a photo. Here. Thank you very much. I'll ask everyone to take their seats.
Thank you very much, and Your Highness, it's such an honor to have you here and to welcome you to Ontario and to this auspicious occasion, and to all of the guests. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for being here. I know many of you have traveled from afar, and we want to welcome you all here today. And all of you have, in one way or another, helped us to get to this moment. And I'm very grateful for that. And everyone has played a different role. I look around this room and I see people who have been former MPPs, Murad Velshi. I see people from other countries who have had input. I see people who have worked within government to work with the officials to help us to get to this point. So I want to just thank everyone. His Highness and I are very excited about this and what it could mean. I want to first acknowledge the tragedy. I said this yesterday at the World Partnership Walk, but I want to acknowledge the tragedy that shocked the Ismaili Shia Muslim community this month. And I join the community here in Ontario and around the world in mourning those who have been lost in what really is a senseless act of violence that left dozens of Ismaili Shia Muslims dead and many more wounded. So I want to just make that acknowledgement. You know, under the leadership of His Highness the Aga Khan, the Ismaili Imamat will continue to work towards peace and reconciliation. We all know that, and the people of Ontario condemn this attack, and we stand in solidarity with the Muslim Ummah. So. I wanted to make that acknowledgement. But today, Ontario and the Ismaili Imamat have signed really a historic agreement of cooperation to explore areas of cooperation and joint initiatives, including education, diversity, and economic development. One of my very first contacts with the broader Ismaili community was, I think, the day before I was appointed Minister of Education in 2006, but I was at an education event that was being put on by the community, and I was so touched and so impressed at the energy of the community and all ages. There were aunties and uncles and grandparents and moms and dads and young children who were there early on a Saturday morning to listen to me talk about education in Ontario, and it was just a wonderful conversation. So I have known for some time the depth of commitment to education and to community involvement and to intergenerational sense of responsibility within this community. And it is remarkable. So I just want to acknowledge that. And this agreement is, I think, a partnership that's going to allow us to have a mutual benefit in terms of education, sharing of resources, but also in terms of policy development. And that was the conversation His Highness and I were just having. The discussion about pluralism that is so important to the world, yes, it is important to the Ismaili Imamat. Yes, it is important to Ontario. But it is important for the world that we have a better understanding of how pluralism can work. And I think the language in the agreement is exploring how we can encourage a disposition towards pluralism. I think that is so critical. And I don't think that any group of people is positioned better than this collective group to have that discussion. And so I am very excited about what we can do together. I know it's been a little bit of time coming, but there were lots of people who are very particular about administration and exactly how we should do things, and that is why we have gotten to this point, and we have done it in the best way possible. So I'm very grateful. The Ismaili Imamat is really an ideal partner, and I hope we will be an ideal partner in Ontario in return in developing this relationship, but making some exploration and exploring some issues that will be of benefit not just to those of us who are most immediately touched by it, but will be of benefit to the world. And so I want to just again thank you, Your Royal Highness, for embarking on this adventure with us. Merci beaucoup. And would you like to say a few words?
Madam Prime Minister, I want to tell you how happy and grateful my community and I are for this agreement that we have just signed. Our history, our interpretation of our faith is anchored in the intellect, and we rejoice in investing in the human intellect. It's part of the ethics of what we believe in, and it's part of what we believe distinguishes us, obviously, from the environment in which we live. So the agreement that we have is giving us new opportunities to widen our exposure to education in the industrialized world, but to widen that education within a context where our values are the same. And that is very important, because it's clear that with a global community such as the one of the Ismaili community, we need to invest in global values, in values which can be applied to any society at any time in any part of the world. And this is what we are finding in Canada, that we will have a partnership with you. And in investing in that partnership, we're investing in a profession which I have to say has difficulty in the developing world. There are three professions in the developing world which are undervalued. The first is nursing, the second is education, and the third is journalism. And yet all those professions are critical for the development of a quality civil society in the third world. And the partnership that you have allowed us to create is going to come in and assist us to reposition one of the greatest professions that we need in the third world. So I would ask you to think of this not only in terms of what we will be able to achieve in terms of collaboration, but in the much wider context of the teaching profession and its position in the developing world. But then we were discussing something else. We were discussing dialogue. We were discussing policy. We were discussing what ideas we need to move forwards in various parts of the developing world. And sharing these ideas, talking about them openly and freely, but within the context of common values, shared values, is an absolutely wonderful opportunity. And I thank you very much for making that possible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's ceremony. We thank you all for your contribution to making this agreement possible and look forward to further collaboration. And now I'm sure everyone is looking forward to the celebration this afternoon at the opening of the Aga Khan Park. And so, without further ado, I ask you all to stand for the departure of His Highness the Aga Khan and the Honourable Kathleen Wynne, Premier of Ontario.